Welcome to Paw Print Academy, your blueprint to raising better dogs. My name's Ryan, and I'll be your host for this journey. I've got my trusty co-host here, Brianna.
Hello.
And together we're bringing you real-world training insights built on leadership, structure, and proven methods. We record this podcast with live clients on the line in one take with live, unscripted questions and answers. At the end of the day, this podcast is a lot more than just teaching your dog to sit or stay. It's about building trust, creating calmness, and becoming the kind of leader your dog truly needs. We do that with our 3-pillar method of trust, obey, and perform. Together, we'll show you how these 3 pillars shape every step of training. Thanks for being here. Let's get started. All right, episode 20. We made it to 20.
Right.
Excessive barking, why dogs bark, and how to reduce it without chaos.
Ugh.
Maybe.
Yeah, maybe. If you're lucky.
Barking is hard. Barking's awful.
Yeah, it's a rough one.
Because, right, it's real quick right off the bat. People usually think that their dog is saying something.
Yep.
Like, right, that's them. That's how they talk. And it kind of is, but it kind of isn't. All right. So dogs can use barking to alert, but it's more theme based.
Yeah.
Right. A dog will bark for to alert or to protect or to claim something or to chase something away.
Yep.
But rarely is it rare. It's not like when we speak.
Right.
Now, granted, humans say and use 1,000 words to like describe one singular concept.
Mm-hmm.
But when we're talking, we're enunciating and using words, we're communicating a concept. And the barking, I would say, is more like generalized theme based.
Yeah.
In the way that dogs communicate.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So tonight we are welcome for everybody that is tuned in. Thank you for meeting us at this different time than we normally do. Usually we do them on Wednesdays, and tonight we're recording on a Tuesday.
Right.
So I appreciate the flexibility. As we get started tonight, we are trying to introduce a little different, flow through the podcast or through the group call. And so what that looks like is usually we have this concept broken into like 3 major portions of my notes. And so after each one, we're going to try to elicit support from the audience. Input.
Yeah.
Like, hey,
yeah,
what do you guys think? What have you experienced? And so instead of just waiting until the end and then being like, who has questions? And maybe at that point, maybe you do, maybe you don't. Maybe you fell asleep.
Right.
I don't know.
Yeah, maybe you had to disconnect and go to bed.
Yeah. We're going to try to get folks more involved. And so as we open it up for that, I would love to hear from anybody who has something to say. If you haven't tuned in before, a couple of things. So one, obviously this is being recorded and is going to become our podcast episode later. You'll see it probably a week or 2 from now. And then additionally, we have the Zoom meeting going with the chat feature. So if there are random questions, you don't want to have your voice on there or you don't want to say something, by all means, you can chat it up. And I've got the little chat window open, so I'll pick those comments up as we're going. Mm-hmm. I think I covered all of the housekeeping
was it.
items. So tonight we are talking about excessive barking and why dogs bark and how we're going to work through it. So barking is a totally normal dog behavior.
Yep.
Man, can it be annoying though.
Although there are some dogs that just don't really bark.
Right. That is fair.
Yeah.
Just like there are some dogs that are super yappy.
Yeah.
And will bark incessantly all the time. There are some dogs that never bark.
Yeah.
There are some dogs that do something called baying.
Yeah.
Right?
Mr. Gabe.
Right. We have a hound mix, and right when he is alerting to something, everyone knows. He makes sure everyone in the neighborhood knows.
Right. He kicks off the party.
Right. He doesn't just go,
Right. It's like a husky kind of.
It's like a howl. And so there are, there's different types of barking.
Yeah.
But either way, excessive barking is almost always a symptom of something that's like an unmet need, or maybe they're unclear expectations, or maybe they're just like habits that have been like kind of reinforced in the dog.
Right. That's a lot of it most of the time, I feel like.
And so that's what we're going to try to break down tonight. So dogs bark kind of because at the end of the day, because it's something that's worked for them, right? Either they have been able to alert to these things in the past, they've gotten their point across before, maybe they've defended an area before, and they felt like it was a successful strategy. And so now they continue to use it.
Right. And also, like, I think we also forget that when, and some people don't even know, when a dog barks, it releases a burst of dopamine that makes that into like an addictive habit forming behavior.
Right.
And I think that's hard for people to kind of think of and see when you like look at a dog, right? And it's like an addictive behavior, but anything that gives dopamine bursts to a living, animal or being can become addictive if they do it enough times and continue to rehearse it.
Right.
Even dogs.
Yeah. When you watch like a professional sports game, and like one of the reasons why it's so fun to like go to that thing live and be there, right, is like you're like screaming your head off and you're screaming for your team and everyone's supporting, right, and you feel a certain way because of that. Now, for sure, some of that is depending on everything that's going on around you, but a lot of it's your own physiology.
Right. And when a dog is barking, it's quietly, just self-fulfilling.
It's a totally different experience than if you sit there or you stand up and scream your head off.
Right, for sure. And a dog, when it's barking, doesn't need anybody or anything really to like self-fulfill that. So it just becomes something that they can do on their own without anything even going on.
Yeah. And so to reduce that, right, it requires identifying what the motivation is behind it. And then once we've kind of diagnosed that and we figured out what is encouraging the dog to do that, then we can teach them a calm alternative.
Yep.
And then instead of relying on just like punishing the dog for it and telling the dog not to do what their genetics tell the dog that they should do, instead we encourage the dog to do a totally different behavior that might be completely inversely proportional, right? It might be impossible to do the behavior we want them to do and bark at the same time.
Yeah.
And that's one of the best ways to deal with it. So we'll jump into that.
With major point number 1.
Why is my dog barking? Right. Why is my dog barking, and why is it, I would categorize it excessive. So let's talk about why dogs bark. The dog can bark due to alerting. We talked about that already. I mentioned it, right? Maybe the dog's alerting you to a noise or a sound or something that the dog thinks that everyone else needs to know about.
Yeah.
Number 2, frustration, right? Frustration can be a reason why dogs bark.
Right. That's why working dogs bark a lot of the time. Like that's how they teach them, like they get them frustrated to make them bark and amp them up.
Right. And I think everyone's kind of seen this one where you're playing with a dog or they're doing something maybe maybe in a way that like you can tell the dog wants something, but you're kind of like keeping it from them or you're playing keep away or something like that.
Yep.
And then eventually the dog kind of is like getting ramped up and then starts barking at you. That's a frustration.
Yep.
Boredom. Where the dog's just like, there's nothing going on and I have nothing to do. I'm going to start a party by myself. Right. Anxiety, right? Fear. Both of those can play a huge role. And then just in general, like attention seeking.
Oh yeah. That's like one of the hardest ones.
Right. They're like, no one's paying attention to me.
Yeah. Why aren't you looking at me?
Hey, hey, you. So any of those can be a thing. When I would say alerting, anxiety, fear, and attention kind of, they go hand in hand for the number one reason why usually we get the call for barking.
Yeah.
And that can come from this concept of, well, the dog a lot of times has free reign in the home and will go up to that front window,
right,
the front of the house, and then be like, there's something out there.
Yeah.
Hey, everyone, come look.
Yeah.
Right. Or there's something out there. Hey, get away from my house.
Yep. Or
there's whatever, right?
Yeah.
Fill in the blank. So before we talk about how we're going to fix that, right? Let's go through all of this, identifying the motivation behind what we're talking about.
Yep.
Many dogs learn that barking produces results, and that could just be as simple as getting attention for it, or it could be a change, and that's usually what it is. So, dog barks. Let's put it, let's just use another animal, right? So, a cat is, walking past outdoors, some sort of stray cat, and the cat walks past, the dog barks, and the cat runs off. Well, it just learned that the barking created an environmental change, and the cat ran away. Now the dog's like, cool, that's a successful strategy. Didn't want that cat near my house.
Yep.
And I accomplished that. The same thing can happen inadvertently, and the dog can relate it to their behavior, even though it's not related. The UPS man is the number one like concept in my mind for that. So UPS guy comes to the door, rings the doorbell, dog starts barking, UPS man runs away, super scared, gets in his truck, drives away.
Yeah.
So fast.
So fast.
And the dog's like, yeah.
Scared him.
Exactly.
Got him.
Knew it. Yeah. I heard you.
Yeah.
I didn't want you here. I barked at you. You ran away.
Yep.
And now they're like, sweet, this is a successful strategy. I will continue to use this anytime that I'm nervous about someone approaching.
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah.
Which then can translate into all strangers.
Right. Mine is coming out of the crate. You put your dog in a crate or some sort of confinement and they start barking, right? And you let them out. They just learned that that's the number one way.
Right. There's an environmental change.
Yep. That's a big one for sure.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Another one. So a lack of physical or mental outlet, right? Something that the dog has nothing to do.
Yeah. Goes
And
back
they're
to like
just
boredom. Yeah.
You know what? Let me cause some chaos, or let me like pacify myself.
Yeah.
Let me You know what? I think I heard something. Let me see if
Yeah, they start
a better
listening for things.
example, right? Because so the house is nice and quiet.
Yeah.
You're upstairs or in another room. Everything is calm and relaxed. Dog starts barking. Suddenly, you go bursting through the door, and you're like, "Hey, knock it off!" That's an environmental change.
Mm-hmm.
Dog wanted to start something. Dog started barking. You came out. And so even though that's like negative attention or negative, like, attention would be there was another word. It's just not coming to the tip of my tongue. As soon as you get a microphone in front of your face, suddenly a lot of like words just don't show up when they need to. But either way, yeah, I think everyone probably understands what I'm trying to say. When those changes pop up, the dog is always running these little experiments. They're all little scientists, and they're trying to figure out how they can manipulate their, not in a bad way, right? How they can influence, better word.
Yeah.
How they can influence their environment.
Yeah, or get whatever it is that they want, you know, just satisfy themselves. Because, and I don't remember who I heard say this the other day, but when we talk about a dog is barking at someone, right, and you're walking your dog, or your dog is barking at someone, or another dog, right, and some people will say, well, my dog is barking and being protective of me.
Yeah. Right. Super protective.
I hate to break it to you, but 99% of dogs are not barking to protect you. They're barking to protect themselves.
Right.
Most dogs are doing things for themselves in some way, shape, or form.
Right. And it can be pack driven.
Right. It can be pack driven. And they're like, cool, I want to play ball. I'm going to bring you the ball. Right. That's a pack activity. Mm-hmm. It's not totally selfish, but it's still to satisfy themselves because they want the ball. So that is one of the things that I heard somebody say the other day, and I was like, right. That is one of those things where it's like the light bulb turns on. And it's like, oh yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
And so the environmental triggers often create repeated rehearsal opportunities. Mm-hmm. And so I wrote down that point because that was the mailman like theory, right? The negative reinforcement where something is being taken away or the thing is going away, and that is creating in the dog's mind this reinforcement activity. Mm-hmm. This is the same concept as why dogs will when you have a reactive dog that is reacting to another dog when you're out on a walk, and then you both go in your separate ways, your separate directions, and the dog's like, yeah, that's right. I did that.
Yeah.
Because I blew up on this leash. Mm-hmm. I barked my face off. I scared that dog and that owner ran away.
Yeah.
But that's not accurate.
Right.
It's
you
just
know them.
Right. Exactly. You're like, I've never seen them in my life. Of course we're going to keep going. But to the dog, that could be the end of it, right? That's what they got out of that. Mm-hmm. I barked at that pair of nefarious looking mm-hmm. folks, and they booked it.
Yep.
So those environmental triggers are a lot of times what we accidentally reinforce the dog with. Right,
because we build a pattern with it. It's mm-hmm. Dogs are all about building patterns. It's always a pattern. If you put your shoes on and grab your keys and your dog gets excited, it's because they built a pattern of you picking up your shoes and your keys and getting excited. And if you take your dog on a walk and they bark at every dog they see, but you just continue to take them on those walks and mm-hmm. let them rehearse those habits, then they're just going to reinforce it stronger and stronger.
Yep. And before we go down, I've been trying to do a lot better at this, but I want to break down one little science blurb per podcast here. And so today it's going to be, I got the microphone in front of my face and now,
Barking, walking, rehearsing.
It's not operant conditioning. It's classical.
Golly.
Golly.
I was like, I don't know.
It was on the tip of my tongue. It's when you see someone, you're like, Mary is her name. Which is a lot harder when you're a dog trainer because you have like 3 times as many names. Usually you've got at least.
It's hard.
Yeah.
A dog, 2 people.
Right.
Hopefully not another dog.
Oh, right. 2 dogs.
So, and I hope they look different. If they don't, oh my gosh.
Okay. Sorry for my
We're back.
my ridiculousness over here. My brain has been all over the map this week. So classical conditioning is a process of conditioning the brain to where now the response is no longer the choice of the dog. Mm-hmm. When you're talking about operant conditioning, you're talking about a stimulus and a conditioned response and all of these things that the dog can have some sort of effect over their environment. Yep. You're giving the dog the control. Mm-hmm. When you're talking about classical conditioning, you're talking about a process that the dog cannot control. And so this is that Ivan Pavlov experiment where ring the bell, give the food, ring the bell, give the food. Now the food always produced that salivation thing where when the dog's expected to get the food, they're like, cool, I'm really excited about this. And so they start slobbering. Well, when we rang the bell in this experiment, when he rang the bell, then gave the food, then rang the bell, then gave the food, then rang the bell, then gave the food. Now, the dogs start to relate the bell to the production of the food. And so now their unconditioned response, which was initially the salivation to the food, becomes a conditioned response to the bell. Mm-hmm. So now the bell rings and they start salivating. Yep. Not because they care about the bell, just because they expect the food to show up. Mm-hmm. Now, when Brianna was saying the keys, when you go and you grab your keys and suddenly the dog was freaking out because they want to go because they hear the keys, mm-hmm. This is no different. Yep. It has become a conditioned response. Mm-hmm. To the jingling of the keys because they expect whatever is coming next. Mm-hmm. Now, when we talk about barking and we talk about this mailman theory and we talk about the UPS guy and all of these, the environmental cues here, you can create a experience that conditions the dog. And now, without you even realizing it, your dog is programmed to respond that certain way. Yep. So now when they hear the brakes of the UPS truck, they start barking. Mm-hmm. And it has nothing to do with the actual sound. It has to do with them predicting that the UPS guy is coming to the door, mm-hmm. and that they are already barking to make him go away. Yep. If you understand that, then you have a fighting chance to analyze what it is that's happening, break it down, and then break it apart and figure out what you can do to uncondition
dissolve
that
the
response. Exactly. Okay. So that was my science lesson for today. If you aren't fully, yeah, right. I need a little sound effect for the,
you do,
the nightly.
Yeah. Like a little like science like whiz noise or something.
I'm going to figure it out. I'm going to get on that. Right. It's going to be Bill Nye the Science Guy in here pretty soon. So I really want to leave you guys with things that you can action and that you like truly learn something new, not just create a talk show where we talk about dog behavior.
Right.
So with that being said, what we're going to do now is we're going to open it up. Does anyone listening, Lila, this is where you come in. No. Does anyone listening have any personal experience that they can share, want to share, or want to throw out about why their dog barks or how their dog barks, prior to us moving forward with identifying some of the fixes here? But what are some other reasons, other than just what we already named? What are some other reasons that you have had your personal dog bark at stuff?
I've got you, Ryan.
Send it.
It's so you guys helped Pip and I work through his demand barking at the refrigerator.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, right. That is a good one.
The whipped cream.
Yes. Which is a word we still whisper because I'm afraid of what it might trigger.
Love that.
But he would sit at the fridge and demand bark at the fridge because he knew that if he did that, he would get whipped cream out of the fridge.
Yeah.
Because every time somebody went in the fridge, they would give it to him, or he knew that if he did that, he would get it.
Yeah.
Which is part of, and a lot of times you've talked about this on the pod, that is a challenge of living with many people in a home that have different ideas of how a dog should be.
Of acceptable
trained,
behavior, right?
Yeah. Acceptable behavior. Yes. So,
great example.
yeah, Pip is 6 years old. So, it was a hard habit to kick.
Right. That's a lot of a time to be addicted to whipped cream.
Yes.
My man was living his best life.
He
though.
was.
He still is.
He still is, right? Right.
It's just a much healthier life.
Right.
With much more defined expectations.
So
and
that's a really good example. The demand barking for when a dog finds that, hey, cool, this works and this gets me a treat or gets me dinner or gets me whipped cream in this case, right? That's a great example that I don't think we might have barely touched on, but really didn't even include that. So I love that. As that behavior was reinforced by whatever followed, right? And so that one was like to get to an end, right?
Yeah,
I want this.
Snacks.
I want yummy snacks.
I know they're in this white box.
I know that they're
I don't
here.
have thumbs. Yep. Somebody open it.
Yeah. Love that. Great example.
Thanks, Lila.
All right. So
guys, because you helped break that, and because that was a really hard one, and that was a hard one for a really long time. It took a really long time for that barking to stop because it also happened at only a specific time, like between 8 and 10 p.m.
Yeah, that is a tough one, especially when the dog like kicks into like the biological clock, right? And they've got it like down to a time, and they're like, now I'm gonna bark. It's like, oh man. It is a tough one. And that's what we try to tell people is like, when you first see the habit, it's like you have to like try to break it down as soon as possible, because the longer they rehearse it, the more like ingrained in them it becomes. And they're like, no, this is just what I do. This is what we do. We can't change it now.
Right. Because I don't think he was ever doing it to be a jerk. Right. He's just like,
no,
this is
like,
this
hey,
is what I
would
get.
like my whipped cream now.
Right.
It's time.
Yeah. So thank you guys for getting rid of that one.
Awesome. Okay. So now let's break down some like common fixes, but more so why some of these common things fail. Because if we don't frame this around how do we change the dog's motivation, then we end up focusing on the wrong part. Mm-hmm. So what I was talking about with the science was how if you need to understand, it wouldn't do me any good in the example I gave to play the dog's cue of the sound of the brakes on the UPS truck, to play that over and over and over and over, because that's not really the reason why the dog was even barking. Now, that was cueing the barking, but that wasn't the original reason. And so you've got to kind of attack the actual reason and replace those behaviors. Otherwise, you're just chasing your tail.
Yeah.
I got that one.
That's a good one.
All right. So yelling is typically the number one fix.
Yeah, the dog is always going to be louder.
They're like, hey,
yeah,
stop it, knock it off. With real excessive barking, right?
Yeah.
Because I don't know why, but I mean, I think it's just a human trait.
Right, we just try to match the dog where they are.
Right. The dog's
energies.
yelling at you, so you're going to yell at it.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, they're not really yelling at you.
Right. Yeah.
It's not what they're doing. But yelling often increases arousal in the dog, right? The dog doesn't really have a way that it can express in the same accuracy as we can verbally. Yeah. So a lot of times when we yell about barking or surrounding the concept of barking, we just increase the arousal that then makes the dog try to match that energy.
Yep.
And so that often just reinforces the issue. Another thing is that regardless of what tool we end up using, if we don't use strong structure that builds clarity in the dog's mind, then we just end up punishing a dog for doing something that we might not fully understand.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And that's the one that I hate the most, right? Because the dog could be barking in one of these frames of mind to alert you of something that could be dangerous.
Yeah.
And then you're over here acting like a fool because you're, popping their collar or using a bark collar or you're doing this or doing that. And the dog's like, look, I was just trying to tell you that this is real dangerous. Watch out.
Mm-hmm.
So we really need to figure out what is motivating them to bark before we recommend any type of fix.
Yeah.
Another thing that erodes that clarity is inconsistent correction or inconsistent enforcement. So this is where I see the biggest problem with any of the barking, is because sometimes owners can identify what a dog is barking at and sometimes they can't, but it could be the same thing. And so when a dog is like, someone rings the doorbell and the dog barks at the person,
mm-hmm.
but the UPS man comes to the door and the dog and doesn't ring the doorbell, just leaves the package and the dog barks. And one of those, the owner yells at the dog and freaks out because they're barking for no reason.
Right.
And the other one, people hear the doorbell and they're like, oh, someone's here. Of course the dog's going to bark.
Yeah.
But to the dog, both of those two situations are identical.
Mm-hmm.
They're like, yeah, but I heard something you didn't. Right? That UPS guy still tried to get into this house and I scared him away. So I don't know if I'm explaining that one right, but the end concept is that sometimes we try to fix one, but don't try to fix the other. And it appears to a dog as you're being inconsistent.
Inconsistent, yeah. Yep.
That's the end.
Right, because there's a lot of things that dogs bark at that like you can't pinpoint because dogs can hear things that we can't. So yeah, I get where you're going there.
And then the last thing that really builds a lot of frustration, which can increase the barking by itself, is suppressing barking without actually considering the cause. And that can escalate the whole thing.
Yeah.
And I think we've kind of beat this to death. So we can move on to some things that we can actually do here.
Right. Fix it.
Right. So here's a couple of things that we can do. Number one, on the, canine hierarchy of lost another word. There's like 3 or 4 words now that have just escaped my brain.
Yeah.
I'm going to find them laying on the floor later and be like, there they are. So, number 1, we can teach an incompatible behavior to the barking.
Yeah.
So usually when we teach a sit or we teach a down or we teach place, we're not teaching those behaviors with barking.
Yep.
And so what you can end up doing is you can ask, excuse me, you can ask for one of those behaviors in the moment when the dog is barking. Mm-hmm. Most dogs will learn to bark standing up. And they'll learn to bark in that standing position because it's on an arousal matrix that makes more sense to the dog. The dog is like, hey, there's something going on. I need to stand up, just because of they're more ready that way.
Yeah.
So giving the dog something to do, a job to do that doesn't allow them to stand up and doesn't allow them to bark will immediately neutralize some of those barking things.
Right. So in most instances, you can put the dog into a down, go.
There's
to
no
their
100% on any of this stuff, and we'll talk about that.
Yeah.
My dog is a perfect example of one that a down is not going to keep them from barking. They will bark in a down. They'll bark in a sit. They'll bark.
Yeah.
They'll bark
he'll bark anywhere.
In any position.
Here, there, anywhere.
Here, there, yeah. So we'll talk about that.
Dog.
We'll talk about that in a minute, right? And that's a working dog that has
yeah, barely a dog. More like a coyote.
So, 1, we can teach that incompatible behavior. Then we can hold the dog accountable to doing those behaviors. So in the midst of barking, no, place. Mm-hmm. Well, place doesn't involve barking. So this makes sense. Mm-hmm. And this allows you to not just go, no, be quiet, or something that you probably haven't trained. Now, there is another way that you can do this, which is by teaching your dog to bark and to be quiet.
Yeah.
And we've seen some success with this if you can do it and you can do it reliably. Mm-hmm. So you teach the dog to bark, and usually that process is done through creating frustration to get the dog to elicit barking in the first place.
Yeah.
And then you name the barking.
Yeah.
Whatever the word is that you're going to use. So you name it. Then you name the not barking.
Yep.
Ideally with the dog in the same position. Mm-hmm. And you start teaching the dog discrimination between those two. Barking, quiet, barking, quiet, barking, quiet. Then you can name the behavior you want the dog to do and then reward the dog for that.
Yeah.
So when they're barking, you can go, no, quiet.
Yep.
And then reward them for being quiet. Mm-hmm. So that.
Right. And I think a lot of people miss that concept because it's like when we go to do puppy lessons, right? And we teach them how to play with the dog and do tug and things like that. But they're like, well, my dog is biting. Like, I don't really want to teach them to play tug. But you have to have a replacement behavior. You have to still give the dog the outlet that they're seeking, but in a different way. And so if you can teach them the right way or the right place to perform those behaviors, then you're going to be way better off than just shutting the dog down and being like, nope, we're just never going to do that.
Right.
Instead of being like, well, we can do that, but we can only do it here and now when I tell you to do it.
Right. And Dexter's a perfect candidate for that.
Yeah.
Dexter, my dog that we were talking about, because he barks because it's like in his blood. He barks because for the same reason that he bites. Right, like he's a working dog. It's in
Tuesday.
Right, it's in his genetics, and it's like I gotta bite something.
Yeah,
and he'll run around and be like, and kind of look at you like, Can I bite something? Is there something to bite? What am I going to bite? Like, right. And he'll do the same thing for barking. He's like, is there something to bark at? Let me bark at it.
Yeah.
But that is a need that he is having and is showing. So give him an outlet for that.
Right.
Then you can, once you've given him that outlet in whatever way that is, then you can bring him back. You can dial it back and be like, all right, now we're going to go to our place. Now we're going to be quiet.
Because as soon as we do like a tug session with him, he's like 70% of a different dog than before you played tug with him, just after like one round, much less like multiple rounds. But he's also a dog that just needs to be more fulfilled than like an average dog. He's just not an average dog. Right. And I think I lost what I just had. I just had something
about 70%. 70% of a different dog.
Nope.
There's a lot of words flying on the floor over here.
I know. It's just words all over the floor.
They're all over.
That was like a whole sentence too.
All right. Well,
maybe later.
We'll keep driving forward. Let's see, where am I at? My notes here.
Oh, I was going to say,
go ahead.
He's also a different type of dog because he's the only dog that like we know that will bark in any position. He's also the only dog that can bark with a tug in his mouth that, can play tug while barking.
Yes.
It's crazy.
Yes. He can hold on to a full bite.
Yeah.
With a tug.
And bark.
And very clearly bark the exact same way.
Through the pillow.
through the bite pillow.
Crazy.
Yep. So you could have that one. I'll trade you.
Right. Yeah. If
anyone who's
trade,
right. Anyone who's like, man, I cannot.
Having a hard time.
I can't get my.
We can show you harder. Just kidding. He's one of our faves.
He's something. Okay. I'm trying not to make this. Let's stay on track.
Yeah. Don't do any more jokes.
What we can do also is we can manage the environment to avoid or to prevent the rehearsal of those patterns. Mm-hmm. So a great example of this is when we get calls about, well, my dog runs to the front door and goes in this window, right? And there's oftentimes there's like a bench or something like towards the front of the house.
Yeah, couch.
Or a couch or something that kind of butts up to this window. And, well, my dog gets in the window and then just barks its face off at anybody that's like going by. Well, a management strategy for that environment is how can we block that off from being an option?
Yep.
How do we prevent the dog from getting into position for them to rehearse that behavior? Remember that dogs will almost always do and perform the task that they have been allowed to do and perform, and or encouraged and reinforced to do and perform.
Right, and they will just grow into that behavior,
right,
and not just stop doing it. So that's what we always do.
One way that we let that behavior die naturally is by prolonging the amount of time between successful rehearsals of those behaviors. And that is one way that that Lila applied, right, in order to get Pip off of the whipped cream demand barking behavior, right, is by elongating the amount of time between those events to then be able to introduce a different behavior.
Yep, and replacing that behavior. I remember she used play. She would take him out for a walk. So replaced some of those behaviors. It's like, cool, when it's time for whipped cream, we'll just go for a walk instead, or we'll just play instead, or we'll do a training session. So yeah, those were some good...
introducing a different behavior.
Yep.
And then there was another point here about dogs that go outside.
Yeah, dogs
right?
that go outside.
Dogs that go outside, they go into like a backyard and then they run up and down the fence and bark at the neighbor dogs.
Yeah.
Or they go outside and they bark their faces off at sirens or noises or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Well, the unfortunate reality is that if not prevented, dogs are going to continue to do what they reinforce that they want to do.
Yeah.
So we putting something in the way of their natural running spots, right? Where they run up and down, and that's when the barking starts. I've seen that one where they run up and down the fence, and about by the like third or fourth like run, that's when like the barking starts, because that's when the frustration has finally got to a level that the dog's starting to bark.
Yep.
Well, if you prevent the third or fourth run, the dog never gets to that level of frustration to where the barking starts.
Yeah.
The more and the longer that we go between those frustration events, we decrease the likelihood or the statistical chance that they're going to start that barking episode again. Same thing of just putting the dogs out in the backyard, and then there's cars going by or there's something going by, and now they're barking. Well, we have to manage their environment. We have to manage the event. You can do that in a couple of different ways. And we're going to talk about some other things that you can do to kind of like interrupt those behaviors. But managing their environment is definitely number one.
Yeah, because if you don't like change it somehow, then they're just going to keep doing it.
Yeah.
If they are allowed to sit in that window, they're going to bark. They're not going to one day go, I don't think I'm going to bark today. I don't need to bark at that car.
Right.
I don't need to bark at those people walking by. They're not going to do that. They're just not.
No. All right. We can reward the inverse pattern. So rewarding calm behavior, but being proactive about it. That's a big one. What does that mean? So when you know that something is about to happen, and you proactively interrupt the pattern and reward the dog for something else, you've broken that behavioral pattern.
Yep.
And that's huge.
Yeah.
By adjusting and avoiding the precursors that then like play this out. It's like taking a record, the old records, CD or whatever, right? Well, the record would play by that like needle going around, hitting the pits and valleys and all of that. And if you took an old style record and you scratched it up and then you put it back on the player, the record player, it would never sound the same. That's all that we're doing, right?
Yeah.
One scratch makes it sound a little bit different. 2 scratches, 3 scratches, 4 scratches. Eventually, that thing will never play the same way. And that's what we're going for.
Yeah.
By interrupting the pattern and then conditioning, by being proactive about your conditioning, you can change the entire concept for the dog. Use structure. So what that might look like, that's where we're going to use our place beds. That's where we're going to use our crate time. That's where we're going to use different sounds and music and white noise and other things in the house. We can adjust the dog's experience in the home to change what they are relating to and how they're relating to those variables.
Yeah, because if you don't give them something else to do, they're just going to continue.
Yeah.
And I think like place is my favorite. And when it comes to barking and things like that, a place is so good for that because it's so versatile and you can move it, right? If your dog is having a problem barking in the window, give them a place bed, move it somewhere away from the window. Any of that stuff can be related to place. So it's definitely one of my favorites, as always.
Then you've got a couple other pattern interrupters. So there is a couple of our favorites. There's compressed air. So Pet Corrector is a brand of compressed air. There are some Amazon knockoffs like Pet Educator and some other things that are it's all compressed air. It's the concept is that this air rushes out of this nozzle that is appropriately sized to make it much louder than regular compressed air. Like think keyboard like cleaner type air.
Yeah.
Usually that's not loud enough to really like change the dog's
right. The pattern, it's not usually loud enough to.
It's not to break the pattern or for a dog to even hear it over their own barking. However, the this Pet Corrector stuff has a little nozzle on it that can be really, really useful in making this compressed air significantly louder.
Yeah, and
that is a great pattern interrupt because it's something very odd to the dog.
Right. And they usually have no idea what's kind of going on because it's just a loud noise. And
right. It's basically the equivalent of having Caesar Milan like in your living room. Going,
with the
but
like loud. and we're not poking them with it.
Right.
We're just like we're holding it behind our back.
Right. And when we use that, we're not spraying it at the dog. We're not like hitting the dog with it. Right. We're it's not quite the same.
I usually conceal the can honestly so that a dog doesn't like pick up on the fact of like what it is.
Yeah.
And then you don't even use it from then on out because the dog sees the can come out and they're like, "Oh no, I'm not gonna do that."
Right. The funny thing about the Caesar Milan thing is that what he would always do on those TLC episodes was a pattern interrupt.
Right. Yeah. He was just poking the dog to get their attention.
Just poking the dog and go.
Right. Yeah. I've poked a couple of dogs. I'm telling you. I took a course, a very like, a highly sought after course and things like that. And they also do that. They don't do it in the same like silly way as much, but they for sure like they use it as like a pattern interrupter and as like an energy expeller, right? It's like a little nudge to somebody being like, hey, take it down a notch. Like, hey, take it down a notch.
Right. And it works because it's a pattern interrupt, right? And it makes the dog go, whoa, what the heck was that?
But yeah, I mean, we love some Pet Corrector for specific things. And it's also the equivalent of like a can of pennies or a jar of pennies or whatever it is of pennies, right? And shaking the pennies.
Yeah, some coins in a cup or coins in a jar, something like that.
Yeah, something like that. It's just
a very
quick little shake.
Strange noise.
Yeah,
it's
that's
loud.
A good homemade version of a Pet Corrector, essentially. Yeah. But Pet Corrector is just really good because it's really loud and it's just convenient to kind of like have.
Yeah.
But super good for dogs that just they bark, one, really, really loud because loud barking is harder to interrupt. And two, if you just like can't even get a break in the dog of like barking where it's like bark, 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 then you can just like give a quick shot. We did it last week and the dog was like worried and stressed at first, right? But it quickly interrupted like the bark pattern he had developed and he didn't bark again.
And so I'm glad you're going down the road that I was going to go down, which
I'm already
it's perfect.
I'm driving faster.
You're doing great. You're driving down the road. But what I was going to highlight here is the dogs that this does not work for are the ones that are barking for a specific reason and then stopping.
Yep.
That this isn't going to work.
Yeah.
Because you're not really interrupting. It's unlikely that you're going to get that shot of the Pet Corrector at the exact moment that they also hear the brakes on the UPS truck.
Right.
Right. So it's not really going to interrupt that type of pattern. Where this works really, really well is with the dogs that maybe they started barking for a reason,
Yeah.
but then they get into this self-gratifying loop where now they're barking. They end up barking for two different reasons in one episode.
Yeah.
At the beginning, they were barking at you. In the case that Brianna was talking about, that it worked really well.
Mm-hmm.
The dog initially started barking because they were nervous of Brianna's presence, right? And
coming
then,
into their home.
right,
Yeah.
coming as a stranger coming into the home, and then it just continued and continued and continued and continued and continued, and then it was like the dog's barking now,
The dog is like,
just
I don't
because
know.
that doesn't even know. I don't even know why I'm barking,
Yeah.
but I'm barking because I've been barking for a while, and I feel better about it, I guess.
Right.
So I'm just gonna keep
Right.
doing
it's
it.
making me feel better.
Right.
So I'm just going to keep going.
Self gratifying. So
Yeah.
at that point, now it interrupts that pattern.
Yeah.
The dog's like, "Wait, what was I doing?"
Yep.
And they don't go back into that same pattern.
Right. It's also a startling effect for dogs, right? I think some people like see it and they're like, well, that scared the dog, right? Because it's loud and it probably will. It's not like equivalent to an air horn, but
Yeah.
it's loud. And it does most of the time kind of startle the dog and bring a little bit of like, oh, what was that? And like anxiousness.
Mm-hmm.
But you're talking about a dog that when a dog gets into that pattern, it's not good for them anyways. It's not healthy for a dog to feel like they have to do that or their brains get stuck in this loop. It's not even a healthy mindset to be in. And so interrupting that is honestly like the best thing that you can do for that dog is to just be like, hey, we're not going to do that. Everything is fine. But it does take that interrupter sometimes. And sometimes it's not like, everybody's favorite, but neither is like incessant barking, to be honest.
Right. There is the concept that it's worth being cautious, right? Because we don't want to be too aversive to a dog.
Yep.
But there's also the concept that's like, so are you going to just live with it because you don't like, who's the priority here in you just living with this aversive behavior, which is the excessive barking?
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty aversive to me.
Right.
Or are you going to use clear communication in order to fairly break down this pattern and change it so that then your relationship can increase in the end?
Right. Because we always teach fairness to our clients. And not once have we ever been like, well, we're going to use a collar and a leash and we're just going to correct the dog for barking. Right. Never. I think the most extent is probably the pet corrector. I mean, honestly, usually we teach redirection, but every now and then if it is the loop and we can like see it and it's like something we're involved in and we're there and can help with it, then 100% it's like, okay, cool. Let's just try this. And if it works, great. If it doesn't, then we'll try something else. But everything in dog training is fluid because dogs are all so very different and intricate. And one thing that works for this dog, in 30 seconds, I'm going to see another dog and it's not going to work for that dog. Yeah. And it could be the same breed dog. It could be around the same age dog, but it doesn't matter because every single dog is so different.
Yeah. Last thing that I want to bring up is this other strategy that I think is important to highlight, and you can apply it. You're going to have to use your own creativity to apply it in your home in a way that makes sense.
Yep.
But it's the concept of showing the dog that you're taking their alert seriously. And I'm trying to, I want to make sure that I explain this properly. But it would be in our home, right? One of the dogs is barking because it hears something at the front door. What I would do is I would get up or, reach my head around the corner and look at the door, identify what it is that the dog's alerting to. And then move forward from that experience with either a different task for the dog or some sort of dismissive body language that's like, all right, I've assessed it. It's not a threat. It's not an issue. Let's move on.
Yeah.
That can, I'm like trying to talk through it because there's great videos about this on YouTube. But I'm trying to like think how I can explain it. When you see it in dog body language, when a dog barks at something and another dog rolls up right next to it and looks over there and then identifies what it was, and then they're like, okay, all right, we've got the pack has now been alerted. Now this isn't such a big deal. Or okay, cool. I have done my duty in alerting the other dogs or my family to this threat. Now everyone has kind of like, they're showing me with their body language that they hear it, they're taking it seriously. All right, now we can move forward.
Yeah.
And it alleviates some of the frustration and the stress in the dog. It also helps the dog trust you as a position of leadership. Mm-hmm. So if you pretend to never hear the noise, whatever it is, whether you hear it or not, if you pretend to never hear it, and it's something that when we first talked about our first point here, where you need to diagnose why your dog is barking.
Yep.
If it's something that they think is threatening, you need to address it. Mm-hmm. And that could simply be looking at it. That could simply be assessing it. Mm-hmm. But if you show the dog that you've assessed it, rather than you just knowing, oh, I know that that's the mailman because I hear it, so I'm going to ignore it.
Yeah.
Well, the dog doesn't know that you know what that is.
Right.
So this is a concept that maybe I've talked around in circles, but hopefully I have highlighted what I am, kind of trying to talk through here. Yeah. Show your dog that you've got it. Show your dog that, hey, it's okay. I hear what you're saying. I know what it is. I've assessed it. It's not a threat. Let's move on.
Yeah.
That's what you got to do.
Yep. Okay.
So at this point, we're going to open it up for questions. We're running a little bit behind. I've gone a little bit over the normal hour that I try to limit this on. So open it up for questions, as well as, hey, has anybody dealt with something similar or different? And is there something that you found that worked for your situation that everyone else could benefit from? So I'll open it up for anyone who wants to contribute. 10 seconds.
You didn't play the Jeopardy music.
I know, because I wasn't prepared, because my brain words are all on the ground.
Right.
I've been looking for them.
There it is. Over there.
All right.
Hey guys, this is Heath.
Hey Heath.
Hey.
Hey, so one thing we found with Luna, because she's good about the whole mailman theory and, about people coming to the door and alerting us for that. But one thing we found that's helped out a lot is putting her in her place and just that whole process. And that kind of gives her space to calm down and relax a little bit, rather than being up at the door and, constantly aggressive towards the situation. So putting her in her place definitely gives her that space to chill out and kind of ease off, and eventually, kind of ease up on the barking. So.
Yeah, and that's another concept, right? Because she's just more like fearful kind of, and just like a little insecure, right? And a lot of dogs are like that when people come up to the door and come into the home. A lot of times it can evolve from fear. So giving the dog that space with their place or their kennel can just bring some of that security and be like, okay, this is my space. Nobody bothers me over here. I can relax, just watch them from over here, and then get involved as I feel like it or if I want to. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. Thanks for
thank you.
sharing, Heath. So we'll jump into listener projects here. I've got 2 projects for you tonight. So number 1, calm before the trigger. So try to identify your barking trigger. If you're dealing with a barking dog at home or you're dealing with an excessive barker, try to identify the barking trigger. That's going to help you no matter what. Go through those triggers that we first talked about and see if yours line up with any of those. Then ask the dog for place or down before the barking begins, right as that trigger is starting to arrive, whatever that is. At that point, reward that calm holding, right? Where we're holding that down, holding that place, even if it's out in public somewhere or another dog's walking by. Hold that good behavior and reward it with your continuation type markers. Practice that daily and see if that doesn't assist you in kind of reconditioning what it is that you're dealing with. Yeah. All right. Project number 2 is going to be, is start to log it. So track what you think is triggering the barking. Write down the different things because like Brianna brought up at the beginning of this episode, there are things that you're not going to hear. There are things you're not even going to perceive because it's not going to make sense to you. The only way for you to start figuring those things out is to start writing down the different variables of that experience as it's happening. Mm-hmm. So start keeping a log and write down the time of day and what immediately happened before that and where were you and was there anything outside and was there a plane flying over? Was a car drive by? Were there dogs or other animals approaching outside? Where was the dog? Was the dog at the front door? Was the dog at the front window? Were they just laying in their crate and all of a sudden they started barking? What was the lead up? What happened? And by identifying all those variables, you'll start to figure out what those triggers are so that then you can attack those. Mm-hmm. And you can actually adjust your dog's experience from those things. Instead of just going, no, don't do that. No. Yep. Instead of just putting a bark collar on and being like, well, the bark collar works while they're wearing it, right? Bark collars tend to do that. They work while the dog is wearing it. And then the dog figures out, hey, when I don't have it on, I can bark. Yep. And when I do have it on, I can't bark. Yeah. And then you're right back to square one, still trying to identify the triggers. Yep. Because it doesn't fix anything. All right. So use that data to adjust the structure in your house and go about proper exercises in order to kind of work through those things. All right, that is all I got for tonight. Those are the listener projects. So I am going to close it out here because we're at 1 hour and 8 minutes, and that is a long time.
It's too long.
So I appreciate everybody tuning in and listening. We're going to close it out tonight. If you have another experience with some excessive barking and you want to contribute to everyone's knowledge, please leave us a comment, leave us a like, leave us a review on the podcast, wherever you listen to it. Happy to also accept comments on how we can do this better. I am no professional podcaster, but I always want to get better. Mm-hmm. All right. Have a great night, everyone.
Good night.
See you later.